Hello, all you freedom-loving people. So what's really going on in Iran, and did Elon Musk know about the attacks on Iran a year ago? And was American DNA being shared with hostile nations? Okay, let's get into it. On Wednesday night, a SpaceX Starship rocket exploded into a fireball during testing at the Starbase facility in southern Texas. The rocket was on a stand preparing for its 10th flight. SpaceX stated on X that the Starship experienced a major anomaly while on the test stand. SpaceX wrote, "A safety clear area around the site was maintained throughout their operation, and all personnel are safe and accounted for. Our Starbase team is actively working to save the test site and the immediate surrounding areas in conjunction with local officials." SpaceX also asked that people avoid the area while safety operations continue. They also noted that the incident did not pose any hazards to residents and surrounding communities. The explosion was caught on camera by several live streams of the Starbase in Texas.
Yeah, probably. I mean, even the other day when they... Whoa!
Whoa! What? That's not good.
No! Oh my God.
It appears there has been a
Ship
row.
36 just blew up.
So far, it's unclear what caused the incident, but the Cameron County Constable Precinct 1 said that the emergency protocols were quickly enacted and the investigation is now underway to determine the cause of the incident. And today, in a post on X, Elon Musk reacted to the incident. He wrote, "Just a scratch." Today, our team recalled another explosive post that Musk shared over a year ago. Musk shared a photoshopped image on May 14, 2024. The image shows a missile striking a skyline. And guess what city it is? On the post, it was written, "When you post something super controversial and immediately go to bed." Actually, this can be interpreted as dropping something provocative, then disappearing before the fallout. Something that Musk usually does. He's infamous for posting bold or controversial statements and then avoiding the heat. But the intriguing point is that some people claim the city in the image looks like Tehran's skyline. This is mostly because of the tower in the corner of the photo that looks like Iran's telecommunication tower. So this led to speculation about whether there was a deeper intent behind the message. Was Musk referring to Iran or geopolitical tensions specifically? And was he alluding to an upcoming attack against Iran? Was it really intentional or was it just a coincidence? At the time, people did conclude that there was no actual threat implied and that it was simply a joke. But now that the attack really took place, one may wonder if Elon Musk really knew about the attack on Iran a long time ago. The conflict between Israel and the Islamic Republic of Iran entered day 7 today, and once again, both sides have intensified their strikes. The Israeli Air Force struck 2 more Iran nuclear sites. The sites were Natanz, which is Iran's primary uranium enrichment site, and the other site was a nuclear reactor which was capable of producing weapons-grade plutonium. The Israeli Air Force also hit Iran's police special forces base, Iranian air defense systems, and military production sites that produce and assemble ballistic missiles. Before the attacks, the Israeli Defense Forces issued a warning on their website to evacuate the region, but Iranians may not have been able to see the warning. This is because, according to NetBlocks, which is a global internet monitor, internet access in Iran has been cut for nearly 24 hours. Iran claimed that they imposed a nationwide shutdown due to Israel's alleged misuse of the internet for military purposes. Iran also retaliated with a wave of missile attacks today. According to the Embassy of Israel in the United States, one of the missiles destroyed the Cancer Research Center at the Weizmann Institute. The center housed biopsy samples and research data from around the world, so years of research were obliterated in an instant. And one other missile damaged the Soroka hospital complex, which is one of Israel's largest hospitals. But the Iranian state news agency claimed that an Israeli military command center that is involved in cyber and intelligence operations and is located just 1 kilometer from the Soroka hospital was the main target of the missile attack. In response, Israel denied the claim and called it a lie. Netanyahu condemned the strike on the hospital, and he wrote on X, "We will exact the full price from the tyrants in Tehran." Defense Minister Israel Katz also issued his strongest threat yet to assassinate Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. He said that Iran's Supreme Leader cannot continue to exist. And President Trump has been holding meetings in the Situation Room on what to do about Iran. Today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a House briefing that President Trump will decide within the next couple of weeks whether to take U.S. military action.
Regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
Meanwhile, Leavitt also repeated that President Trump only wants to ensure that Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb.
When the president said a few weeks away, did he mean obtaining enough enriched uranium to start building a weapon, or did he mean Iran is a few weeks away from completing the production of a weapon?
I'm glad you asked that, Ouija. It's an important question, and it's one, frankly, the media has been getting wrong. Let's be very clear. Iran has all that it needs to achieve a nuclear weapon. All they need is a decision from the Supreme Leader to do that, and it would take a couple of weeks to complete the production of that weapon, which would, of course, pose an existential threat not just to Israel, but to the United States and to the entire world. And that is something that the entire world, including countries like Russia, is in agreement with, that Iran should not and cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. And that's why the president believes that, and he's believed that, again, not just his political career, but frankly, his entire life.
Leavitt also said, while President Trump supports Israel's military action in Iran, he has been pushing for a diplomatic solution.
So the president is always interested in a diplomatic solution to the problems and the global conflicts in this world. Again, he is a peacemaker in chief. He is the peace through strength president. And so if there's a chance for diplomacy, the president's always going to grab it. But he's not afraid to use strength as well, I will add.
Leavitt also confirmed that the Trump administration proposed a new offer to Iran as direct and indirect negotiations continue. So after Israel began its strikes on Iran, why didn't the Muslim countries help Iran out against Israel? Israel launched a direct airstrike on the Iranian capital without any prior warning, and it is the most violent conflict in decades. If this had happened in the past, there would have been a strong reaction from other countries in the Middle East. Those Muslim countries in the Middle East would have stood firmly on Iran's side against Israel. However, what we saw this time was a completely different scene. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has threatened to show no mercy to Israel, and high-ranking Iranians have even threatened that if the conflict escalates, an attack could spread to allied military bases in the region, including those of the United States. So the surrounding Muslim countries have been surprisingly quiet with no military action from any of them. So is this because they are afraid of Israel? No, it is not. It has much to do with the complex sectarian struggles in the Middle East and, of course, Iran's own problems. All Middle Eastern countries believe in Islam, but their beliefs are different. Most Muslim countries, such as Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, etc., are Sunni. They are the majority in Islamic countries. However, Iran is Shia, and not just any Shiites. They are Shiites who want to export their ideas in order to conquer other countries. The fundamental difference between Sunnis and Shiites is Sunnis believe that Islamic leaders should be elected by the Muslim communities. But the Shiites, on the other hand, insist that the leader must be a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. And Iran claims a Shiite leader, and they have been building up various groups to support Iran, the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, including militia groups in Iraq, are all Iranian supported. And the surrounding Sunni countries have suffered greatly from these forces. So it's clear that these Sunni countries and Iran are not going to be friendly allies. Moreover, the Middle East is very different from what it was 20 years ago. People are not so keen on jihad or holy war. They're more focused on economic development. For Saudi Arabia, some say that if there's a vote on whether or not to let Iran fall, the Saudis would be the first to vote for Iran to fall. These two countries have been feuding for decades, and the Houthis regularly fire missiles at Saudi oil fields, and the Saudis naturally know who's behind it, Iran. Therefore, there's no need to guess the attitude of the Saudis. If the Iranian government falls, the Saudis will celebrate. And Egypt, which is a Middle Eastern power, has led the last few wars against Israel, but later on, Egypt decided that war was not the way out. So Egypt signed a peace agreement with Israel in 1979. In the past few years, Egypt and Israel have maintained peaceful relations and they have had trade with each other. Egypt has even imported natural gas from Israel. And Egypt's economy is in shambles right now. With soaring inflation and high foreign debt, maintaining domestic stability is a headache for the Egyptian government. So naturally, it doesn't have the resources to support Iran. Next, let's take a look at the situation in Jordan. Jordan is a small country. It is geographically sandwiched between Israel and Iran. It has no resources and no army. Its air defense missiles are supported by the United States, so naturally, its military actions depend on the attitude of the United States. If the U.S. is not against Israel, Jordan will not be against Israel either. And the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain signed the Abrahamic Accord back in 2020. This officially established diplomatic relations with Israel along with military cooperation. Lebanon and Syria also have their hands full and have no extra money to worry about other countries, regardless of that country's relationship with them. Turkey, an important neighbor of Iran, is a bit different. While Turkey is officially a secular state, Islam is the most common religion of the country. But Turkey is also more subtle. On the surface, it condemns Israel most severely, but in private, its cooperation with Israel has not ceased. And Turkey is now facing the challenge of economic collapse. The interest rates are over 50%, and its citizens are afraid of depositing their money in the country's banks. In this case, how is Turkey capable of helping Iran? So, although Iran claims to represent the entire Islamic world, they don't even have a Muslim ally behind them. And the real problem that Iran now faces is not Israel's attack on it, but rather its domestic issues that it cannot solve. On the surface, Iran seems to have some strength. It has a population of 90 million people and a key geographic location and an abundance of resources. However, if we take a closer look, we'll find that this country, which appears to be powerful, is actually riddled with problems. The current ruling regime of Iran, which is called the Islamic Republic, does not represent the real Iran and the Persian people. It is important to make a clear distinction between them. While these terms are often used interchangeably, doing so blurs the critical difference between a nation with a deep-rooted cultural legacy and a political system that has ruled the people and land for just over 4 decades. Iran, which is historically known as Persia, is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Its documented history spans 2,500 years. And archaeological evidence places it as the earliest civilization to emerge in the region after the Chinese civilization. The history of the ancient Chinese civilization started between 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, and the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great was the first known empire to issue a Declaration of Human Rights. The declaration emphasized tolerance and cultural freedom. And before the current ruling regime of Iran, the Pahlavi monarchy was ruling Iran. But then the Islamic Republic co-opted a revolution that was initially fueled by so-called vows of justice, democracy, and independence. However, after the revolution, power was concentrated in the hands of unelected clerics under the supreme leader. This political system was designed to ensure that power would always be in the hands of the clergy. In effect, there is unity between religion and government. This leads us to a practical issue. The president in Iran does not have real power. The real bosses are the clergy and religious leaders. The president can only do what they want with the approval of the supreme leader. So the president can't make any real decisions to solve the domestic problems. They just get bigger and bigger as time goes on. So in order to maintain internal solidarity, the Islamic Republic regime has always needed to create external enemies. Once faced with an external enemy, it can ask the various factions to put aside their differences and face the external threat in unison. But in contrast, they couldn't effectively unite the Iranians with the regime. And in contrast, over the past 40 years, there were many protests against the regime internally. The most recent ones were in 2022 over a woman who was killed for not wearing a so-called proper hijab. Those protests with the slogans of woman, life, freedom were certainly not only about the hijab, but rather they were protests by young people, both men and women, all over Iran against the tyranny and the regime. But they were eventually suppressed by the regime, so once again, anger grew instead of disappearing. Actually, from the beginning of the Israeli strikes, many, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, call for the Iranian people to step up one more time, and perhaps for the last time, to take down the regime themselves. In an English language video that addressed Iranians directly, Netanyahu said that he hopes Israel's ongoing military operation in Iran will clear the path for Iranians to achieve their freedom. Netanyahu said the time has come for the Iranian people to unite around its flag and its historic legacy by standing up for your freedom from the evil and oppressive regime. The Islamic regime, which has oppressed you for almost 50 years, threatens to destroy our country. Netanyahu concluded by saying, as we achieve our objective, we are also clearing the path for you to achieve your freedom. The regime does not know what hit them or what will hit them. It has never been weaker. It's your opportunity to stand up and let your voices be heard. Woman, life, freedom. Also, there were reports that Iran's state broadcaster was hacked yesterday with videos calling for street protests, but it's unclear who was behind the hack. The Iranian state TV said that it was due to enemy interference with satellite signals. So, could street protests be the real solution for Iranians rather than a bigger military attack to bring down the Islamic regime? While the main goal of the current operation by Israel is to eliminate the Islamic regime's nuclear and missile threats, could the street protests actually help prevent a larger military conflict, one that might end up costing even more Iranian lives? In addition, Iran's economy is also very bad. Although Iran is an oil-producing country, after being sanctioned by the United States, its oil exports have been restricted and Iran has to rely on exports to the Chinese Communist Party. Iran's currency has depreciated faster than that of even Venezuela. And young people can't find a job or afford to buy a house, so many educated elites have already emigrated to other countries. So this might be one of the reasons why President Trump thinks that the Islamic regime can't win this war, since the majority of the country, including the elite, are not backing or supporting the Iranian regime. In fact, the situation that the Chinese Communist Party is now facing is very similar to that of Iran. We've talked a lot about China's economic problems. On the surface, it's a large country with a huge population, but in reality, its economy is in stagflation and all industries are withering. In the past few years, Xi Jinping has been in total control of the party, the government, and the military. In order to avoid being penalized for making wrong decisions, officials within the CCP refrain from making any decisions, and they procrastinate on specific matters. So there's a new term to describe this state of affairs: lying flat. If the officials of a country lie down from top to bottom and do nothing, the whole country will naturally have more and more problems and more conflicts. Coupled with the poor state of the economy, the unemployment rate of the young people is high and they cannot afford to buy their own home or even have difficulties feeding themselves. Therefore, there may be an outbreak of civil unrest at any time in China also. In order to stabilize his regime, Xi Jinping must constantly find an external enemy to divert the attention of the public. Therefore, in the past few years, he has either directed his frustrations at the United States or Japan, and he has even threatened Taiwan in a high-profile manner, creating a crisis at sea and in Taiwan. But this is not a tactic that was invented by Xi Jinping. It's a common practice of the CCP and dictatorships. However, in the past, decisions were made collectively at the top level of the CCP and the responsibility was shared by all. But now that Xi Jinping has centralized all the power in his hands, naturally, all the responsibility can only be borne by him alone. And his challenge to the United States has caused great dissatisfaction among the reformists within the CCP. So, as we said a few days ago, he came to power because he was strongly supported by the reformists. And it was also because of the support of the reformists that Xi Jinping gradually eliminated the power of Jiang Zemin's faction and really took over the power. But the reformists wanted him to get along with the West, to trade more, and to gradually transform China into a democracy. So what he's doing now is exactly the opposite of what the reformists envisioned at the beginning, and the reformists have decided to replace him. And like Iran, China is ruled by a small group of communist elders and their descendants. Although these people are also Han Chinese, they are totally different from the ordinary people in China. No matter how hard an ordinary person tries, it's impossible for him or her to enter the circle of rulers. The design of the CCP is that power is always in the hands of their patriarchs and their descendants. The descendants of these patriarchal families are known as the Red Second Generation. These second-generation Reds occupy senior government positions and leading positions in major industries, and they control more than 99% of China's political and economic resources. The trade war between Xi Jinping and the United States has naturally jeopardized the wealth of the Red Second Generation. At the same time, in order to monopolize the power, he also punished some of the Red Second Generation who did not agree with his ideas, and this was a violation of the CCP's internal rules. Xi Jinping prevented the reformists among the Red Second Generation from getting rich and did not allow the leftists among the Red Second Generation to share the power, so naturally he became the enemy of all the Red Second Generation. And similar to Iran's supreme leader, it's likely the same goes for Xi Jinping. Even without the opposition of the Red Second Generation, his regime will soon collapse amidst internal and external problems. Today, President Trump signed an executive order to extend the deadline for the sale of TikTok by another 90 days. ByteDance, a Chinese company with ties to the Chinese Communist Party, was nearing the June 19th deadline to sell TikTok's U.S. operations and assets. This deadline was under a national security law that was upheld by the Supreme Court earlier this year, but President Trump has already twice granted reprieve from the enforcement of the congressionally mandated ban on TikTok. This congressionally mandated ban was initially supposed to come into effect in January. On Wednesday, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, halted and ordered a review of all new clinical trials that include sending American cells to hostile nations for genetic engineering purposes. The order comes after the Biden administration finalized a data security rule last year that allowed the access of countries of concern to America's sensitive personal data. The order states that the access of countries of concern to America's sensitive personal data constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat. So the FDA instructed government officials to restrict such access. The order also came as the Trump administration vows to bring transparency back to the health industry. With this new decision, companies have to demonstrate full transparency, ethical consent, and domestic handling of sensitive biological materials, and those who fail to do so will be terminated. FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary said in a statement, the previous administration turned a blind eye and allowed American DNA to be sent abroad, often without the knowledge or understanding of trial participants. The integrity of our biomedical research enterprise is paramount. We are taking action to protect patients, restore public trust, and safeguard U.S. biomedical leadership. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.